Good morning, and I welcome you all to the 6th day of the 97th Annual Conference of the Music Academy. This morning, the prayer is sung by Banu Priya of the 3rd year of the Advanced School of Carnatic Music. She will be presenting Brihaspate of Muthuswami Dikshitar in the Raga Athana.
निरामयाय नीतिकर्त्रे निरङ्कुशाय विश्वभर्त्रे निरञ्जनाय भुवनभोक्त्रे निरंशाय मखप्रदात्रे बृहस्पते तारापते जाते नमोस्तुते.
Thank you. This morning's first lecture demonstration is by Dr. K.T. Udaya Kiran. Beginning his musical journey at the age of 3, he started playing the harmonium which he taught himself. And having been born and brought up in the cultural heartland of Karnataka and Mysore, and with a very encouraging family as far as music was concerned, he was exposed to music from very early on. His gurus, Vidvan Bellari M. Raghavendra in vocal, Vidushi Pushpa Srinivasan vocal, Vidvan H.K. Narasimha Murthy violin, all taught him. And after having done his schooling, he studied masters in music from the University College of Fine Arts, where he graduated with a first rank and a gold medal. He got a fellowship from the UGC as a junior research fellow and completed a PhD in music under the able guidance of Dr. Mysore M. Manjunath, a violinist for whom we don't need any introduction. Having completed his education, today he is an assistant professor at the Jain University in Mysore. Today we have on stage his wife, Srimati Madhuri, who is also a musician. Today he will be talking to us about an inclusive tool for teaching the Suladi, Sapta, talas and the Melakarta Ragas. Over to you, Professor Udaya Kiran. You have 45 minutes. Thank you. Hello. I'm sorry. I also forgot. I welcome Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Dr. S. Soumya. My apologies for so kindly consenting to preside over this morning session.
My namaskarams to all senior Vidvans and Vidushis, Dr. S. Soumya Madam, and also Kiran sir, and all the expert committee members, and each and every music enthusiasts present here. I thank Music Academy for this wonderful opportunity. Without further ado, I will start today's topic of what exactly we are going to discuss with. This is a new approach rather than a new subject. An inclusive teaching aid for Melakarta Ragas and Suladi Sapta talas. First and foremost, how this idea came to my mind. When I was discussing with one of my friends, it was asked, so do we have any accessible material in Braille to learn Melakarta Ragas? I was reluctant to say no, but had no option. I had to say no, because there were no accessible material available in Braille, but there are a number of printed materials available. We have quite a good number of books and also web resources. How about if a visually challenged person would like to have access to the legacy of music, the wealth of information that is present in Carnatic classical music in Braille? I thought of designing a teaching aid which comprises print, Braille, tactile graphic, and also audio examples. With that, I started working on this teaching aid, which comprises multiple formats. First, let us analyze each component that this teaching aid comprises. How exactly the teaching aid is designed. So that's most important. This will be an inclusive teaching aid. What does the term inclusive indicate? In our day-to-day activities, in our regular life and in our routine, we use the word inclusive with different context. Like when we buy a product, we come across a term called inclusive of all taxes. And when we avail some service, we also come across the term inclusive of so and so services. With that, in this context, how we use the term inclusive. This particular teaching aid, as I mentioned earlier, comprises of both print and braille. The braille script is used by visually challenged people. So, in that context, this teaching aid can be called inclusive. It also has many other interesting components which I'll discuss in a while. The next significant element that we are going to look into is the new dimension for teaching and learning Melakarta Ragas. What is that, the new dimension? The concept of Melakarta Raga and Suladi Sapta Tala are integral part of Carnatic classical music from very long. What do we find new in this concept? Of course, the concept is unchanged. Probably there are slight changes in the approach or in the application. Then what about the new dimension? When we discuss about a Melakarta Raga or a Suladi Sapta Tala, we need several other components to understand it, and it should be relatable to the contemporary scenario, how we can understand a particular concept. And the next element that we are going to discuss is how it will be beneficial and who will be the target user group. In contemporary scenario, when we see a product is designed, a software is written, programmed, how it will be implemented, where it will be deployed, and how it can be made use of. And the more we discuss about this teaching aid, of course, it will be self-explanatory who will be the target user group. I'll just put it in few words. This teaching aid is aimed at those who want to learn about Melakarta Ragas and Suladi Sapta Tala, regardless of where they are in their musical journey. Is it an elementary teaching aid? Not necessarily. Is it an advanced teaching aid? Not exactly. So it bridges the gap between both fundamental concepts as well as intermediate concept, and also it probably ignites more creative spark to work and analyze deep and also dig more layers of Melakarta Ragas and Suladi Sapta Talas. Now let us look into another component. What does this teaching aid include? And what are the components that we can look for in this particular teaching aid? The first and foremost component that I would like to highlight is contemporary approach to swaras. Why I am emphasizing on contemporary the word? Because we have wealth of information, no doubt. How it is being reached to younger generation? Are we trying to reach it as it is to the present generation? If at all we try, does it work? If it works, how far? And if it is so, are they able to receive what we are trying to send or share or transfer? The contemporary approach to swara includes the name of the swara and also its position and how a swara is understood with different parameters. For example, a swara can be sung, played, or even written. It makes sense when we understand the concept of swara rather than just its name or how it is written. Keeping that in mind, in this teaching aid, there are several details about swaras in terms of its equivalent in other genres as well, and probably a few scientific approach like listing how a particular swara can be measured with hertz and cents, and how it can be expressed through other terminologies. The next element that we are going to see is how the concept of Melakarta Raga can be made more understandable, easy to comprehend for musicians from other genres. On a lighter note, it is said in our culture that when we share a food, the taste of the food increases. Likewise, if we share the musical knowledge or wealth of information, probably its reach is multifold, and it will be reached in an effective way. In that sense, the present teaching aid comprises of swara not only in terms of Carnatic classical interpretation but also in terms of Hindustani classical interpretation, like what we call Shadja may be called Shadaj in Hindustani. And also the Western classical interpretation, we may call it Sa Ri Ga Ma. In Hindustani, they may call it Sa Re Ga Ma. In Western classical music, it might be called as Do Re Mi Fa, and so on. So these kind of interpretations make it more closer to musicians of other genres to understand what exactly the concept of Melakarta Ragas and also its significance and how it matters to them. After listening to all genres of music and also having hands-on experience on a couple of genres of music, I would like to boldly say that this is one of the systematic approach in Carnatic classical music with regard to swara and how the Melakarta system is designed or structured. After that, there is yet another significant concept that has been used in this teaching aid, Braille, to make the teaching aid more inclusive. Again, I'm emphasizing on the term inclusive. What exactly it means? And what is Braille? We are going to discuss about what exactly the Braille and other components in detail in a while. In this teaching aid, the significant aspect that I would like to highlight is whatever information presented in print is also given in Braille. That means a teacher who is able-bodied or who is sighted, to be precise, will be able to teach a student who is visually challenged, and vice versa. So in this context, we can call this teaching aid as inclusive. The next element we are going to focus is Suladi Sapta talas. Of course, the raga, we have so many other aspects to make it more contemporary. What about tala? It is like mathematics. 1 plus 1 is 2. There is no other option. How we can make it more attractive, more closer to younger generation, or more closer to people who use other formats? How we can make that? That's why this teaching aid comprises of Suladi Saptatala represented with tactile graphics. Now let me just explain a few words about what exactly the tactile graphics are. It is nothing but a graphic which is either embossed or printed with a raised dots or raised lines, which makes the concept more concrete and which can be felt by, which can be sensed by, touched by the users who prefers tactile graphic. They who prefers the concept to be accessible with the medium of touch. For example, if probably many of you might have observed, in recent days we have tactile maps and also tactile pathways. We have many other tactile graphic user interfaces, and of course there are a couple of things about which due to time constraint I'll not spend more time with that. But having said that, the tactile graphics is used to represent both the elements of tala and as well as how the tala is counted, like how there are more details in following slides in this presentation that we are going to discuss in detail. One more element that matters a lot in this teaching aid is using audio examples. If I write the name of Swara, of course it reaches as text. How I can differentiate between the Swarasthanas and also the Melakarta? How I can analyze the frequency, the bhava, or the life and breath of that Swara? That's why we have audio examples rendered in this teaching aid. Of course, the audio example is designed in such a way that it is rendered in male voice and also in female voice, and it also comprises of instrumental recordings. With that, users of various groups, like regardless of their gender, age, or instrument, they can make use of this teaching aid to understand more about this Melakarta Ragas and also about Suladi Sapta talas. The next component, which is quite new for some, except those who are oriented to it or except who make use of it, the Braille alphabet. What exactly the Braille alphabet looks like? Many might have the question how Braille is written. Some even imagine that the same way the printed letters are written and dots are raised in Braille. That is not the case. Braille is a script and it is not a language. Any language across the globe can be written in Braille, and it can also be read by anyone regardless of whether they can understand the language or not. They can read it phonetically. Why and how? Why? Because Braille represents permutation combination of dots and not the letters which make sense in that particular region. And also, Braille represents script and not the language. So, for example, the Braille dots, as you can see, are arranged in rows and columns. For example, if the dot 1 represents A, if it is preceded by a numerical symbol, it can be read as number 1 and not as A. If it is preceded with a letter sign, it can be read as A. So there are a couple of other details that I would like to share here quickly. What we can do with Braille. And there was a day when we thought Braille is restricted to something. Today we can do wonders with Braille. Today we have electronic Braille. The moment I get a document, I can have it in Braille and also read along with my sighted counterpart. And also we can do computer programming with Braille. How does it help Carnatic classical music? how it is related to Carnatic classical music if someone does computer programming. We can expect even more number of softwares from visually challenged programmers who are also into music, and more avenues of job as well. And what are the other uses? We can document more number of documents pertaining to Carnatic classical music in Braille as well. Now let us move on to the next element. Tactile graphics, tactile representation of tala, how it is done. I hope you can see the image of a palm with all the fingers placed like this. What does it represent? How do we count tala? Of course, why do we need this tactile graphics, and why do we need this technique when we can very well teach visually challenged students, as well as if the teacher is visually challenged? And it has been done from centuries that music is taught to visually challenged students as well, and there are a great number of performers as well. Why do we need? Like, everybody will have their own preferences. There may be a case like where a visually challenged teacher or student who might be of opposite genders, who may not prefer kinesthetic approach or haptics or touch. Of course, it is their personal choice. They can make use of this tactile graphics as a medium to learn tala. In this example, the Khanda Lagu is depicted with the image of palm, wherein the counts which are employed for this Lagu are numbered in Braille, print, and also the description is given in both print and Braille. The next element that we are going to see is yet another interesting concept. If we have one palm or one anga or one count for a talanga, we can depict it very easily. What about if we have more than one gesture? Here is a concept of dhrita, wherein the palm is facing down. To make it more precise, the thumb is facing left if you are counting with the left hand, right hand, I'm sorry. And when we have the wave visarjita or viche, when the palm is turned, the thumb is facing towards right, and it is slightly raised in tactile graphics. That makes sense of how to count dhrita. 1, 2. So that's how we count dhrita. Now let us move on to most significant aspect of this teaching aid, that is audio references. Without audio, a teaching aid of this kind is definitely incomplete. If I talk about swimming for 10 hours, and in my lifetime, if I have not jumped into a pool, does it make sense? Absolutely not. The audio example makes it more clear and also more easy to understand, and also makes more layers uncovered for any learner of any stage. It's not necessarily the fundamental learner or the beginner should listen to the audio and understand. Sometimes we may also visit some audio for many other advanced preparation. So in that case, the recordings come handy for us, like how we want to understand the raga, Melakarta ragas. Here are some audio examples of Arohana and Avarohana of all 72 Melakarta ragas. Due to time constraint, I am going to demonstrate a few with the audio. First, let us listen to audio in male voice without gamaka.
Raga Hanumatodi. Sari Gama Pada Ni Sa Sa Ni Da Pa Ma Ga Ri Sa.
Now, the same raga, when presented with gamaka, maybe we can consider it as concert version, how it sounds.
Raga Hanumatodi. Sari Gama Pada Ni Sa Sa Ni Da Pa Ma Ga Ri Sa.
Now, after male voice, we also have couple of demonstrations in female voice as well. All the 72 Melakartas are recorded like this, with and without gamaka version. And this teaching aid comprises of all of them. Now let us listen to female voice, one raga without gamaka.
Raga Kantamani. Sari ga ma pa da ni sa sa ni da pa ma ga ri sa.
Now the same raga with gamaka.
Raga Kantamani. Sari ga ma pa da ni sa sa ni da pa ma ga ri sa.
Now we have covered the voice. How about instrumentalists who want to either listen to it or practice along with this? We have violin version of this same Melakarta ragas without gamaka and also with gamaka. Let us listen to without gamaka.
Raga Rasika Priya.
The same raga with gamaka.
Raga Rasika Priya.
Hope that makes sense. Why do we need without gamaka rendition? In order to know the swarasthana with 100% accuracy, sometimes we tend to sing the swara without gamaka. As we can understand, Carnatic classical music is not just loading all swaras with gamaka. Of course, it is proportionate presentation of gamaka and also plain swaras. Now let us move on to the next segment, wherein we have audio references for Suladi Sapta talas. How do we do that? After having given the tactile graphics to a student or any enthusiast who wants to learn about Suladi Sapta tala, here are some audio references which makes it more easy to understand it and how to count, and all the descriptions are given in the print version as well as in the braille version. So here is one example of tala rendered with number count or numeric count as well as jati.
Trishra Jati Triputa Tala. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Now, if the same tala is rendered with jati, how it sounds?
Ta, ke, ta. Ta, ka, de, na. Ta, ke, ta. Ta, ka, de, na. Ta, ke, ta. Ta, ka, de, na. Ta, ke, ta. Ta, ka, de, na.
Another example of one talanga, how it is rendered with number count.
चतुरश्र जाति लघु 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And now, how it is rendered with jati.
Ta, ka, di, na. Ta, ka, di, na. Ta, ka, di, na. Ta, ka, di, na.
So this is how all the talas, all Suladi Sapta talas are audio recorded with human voice and also with cymbal played with hands, the acoustic cymbal, not the virtual library cymbal that we come across in these days. The cymbals are sampled and also played along with the audio clip. Now let us move on to the final part of this teaching aid. What exactly the target of this teaching aid and what is the output that we expect from this teaching aid? So it is basically expected to help users of different formats, like various formats. What are those various formats? Generally, we come across print and braille. There are a couple of other alternative formats like large print, high contrast, and also electronic braille, moon braille, tactile graphics, audio, and couple of other formats. Of course, due to time constraint, I'm not going to explain each of them. I wish I had little time to explain both braille and print term. So yeah.
A good 15 minutes away from
Sure. Then I'll try to briefly explain what exactly those alternative formats are. Thank you, Shriram sir. So, print, as we know, is general print. How a textbook is printed, how a printed material, whether it is a book or probably even an e-book. How about braille? The general assumption of braille is that it is more bulkier, it is expensive, and it is outdated, and so on. But there are a couple of advantages of braille that cannot be replaced with other media. Like, if a visually challenged person reads a document with braille, he will be navigating it character by character. And if he is listening to the audio, some of the elements or maybe a significant part is missed. We tend to do that. Like when we listen to somebody, we tend to think our own imagination, our own ideas after a couple of minutes. That's how we need a concrete study material or a teaching aid, to be precise, which caters to the need. And what about large print? Of course, in other country, we have awareness about what exactly the large print matters, like how it matters to somebody. When we discuss about people with special needs or people who are differently abled, we tend to include people with low vision to either the category of able-bodied or completely we categorize them with visually challenged. But they have different need. They would be more than happy to have the content represented with large print. And today we have magnifiers and we also have many devices to cater to this need, or we have even computer softwares to address this need. So, what is the role of this particular teaching aid in catering to that type of requirement or need? This teaching aid can also be converted to those alternative formats which I have explained just now. And what about Moon Braille? That is probably a bit uncommon concept. Moon Braille is printing the same shape of object or letter or any document or any representation in Braille which looks like the printed version linked with dots. So that can be called a Moon Braille. And what is electronic Braille? Today we have devices which can be hooked up to computer or mobile phones or any smart devices, and any content that is presented in print can be read in Braille instantaneously. Without even converting it to Braille, we can read it online. Then, what is the need of including Braille in this teaching aid? We can as well read in electronic Braille. But think of somebody who has no access to all this electronic Braille. While designing this teaching aid, a few aspects are noted here or observed here, that this teaching aid should reach people without any limitation, whether it is Carnatic classical music or Hindustani classical music or Western classical music or even any allied genres, of course, with any requirement of any format, it should reach people. The main idea of this teaching aid is the legacy of Carnatic classical music should reach far and wide across the globe. And before I conclude, here is one more element: how it can be adapted. The adaptability is one of the key features of this teaching aid. Basically, I designed this teaching aid keeping in mind that it should reach across the globe. That's why I kept the language as English. If required, this teaching aid can also be translated to other languages. So we can create a regional version of this teaching aid with all these information to print Braille as well as tactile graphics. Having said that, of course, this teaching aid can also be converted to any language. Of course, today Braille can be created, the Braille documents can be created in more than 100 languages across the globe, which includes all Indian languages. So that part of information is not widely spread because most of the times either lack of awareness or lack of availability of resources or lack of trained person or many other reasons to contribute. So with that, I would like to thank once again for the opportunity, and let us see a few details of what reference that I have consulted to design this teaching aid. And I would like to place on record my gratitudes to Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts for having enabled me to take up this project and to design this teaching aid. And also I would like to thank the Music Academy for this wonderful opportunity, and I would like to thank one and all who were part of this project. That includes, of course, the Divya Jyoti Charitable Trust, who made the Braille copies of this document, the organization dedicated for visually challenged in Mysore, and also the Swaroop Digital Audio, who has recorded and mastered this wonderful audio. and also many other organizations and also individuals who have contributed to this teaching aid. Of course, after rendering the male voice, of course, I should mention this. My wife, Srimati Madhuri KV, she has rendered the female voice in this device, who is right here helping me technically with all the slides. And also, I played the violin for this recording. I also play violin and keyboard. I perform Carnatic classical concerts on keyboard as well. And now, with the permission of expert committee, I would like to answer. If there are any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Professor Udaya, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you, Srimati Madhuri, for having been here to assist him in this. Members of the experts committee, any questions, any comments? Can we have the mic, please? மைக் ரொம்ப விளம்ப காலத்தில் வருது, கொஞ்சம் திருத்தமாக இருந்தால் நல்லா இருக்கும். ஓடு ஓடு ஓடு.
Mr. Udaya,
Sangeeta Kala Acharya, Dr. Rita Rajan.
Namaste, madam.
Namaskaram. I'm Mrs. Rita Rajan. It was so informative. ஒரு நிமிஷம் கூட it was I had to be so attentive all the time. It's so interesting, so informative, and so many new things we have all come across for the first time. You just demonstrated some Melakarta Ragas, isn't it?
Yes, madam.
With and without Gamaka.
Yes, madam.
That do you do as 1, 2, 3, 4 like this? First Melakarta, second Melakarta?
Yes, madam. We have audio recording for all 72 Melakartas in. Yes, ma'am.
But you do that Kanakangi, Ratnangi like that?
Yes, ma'am. Kanakangi system. And I would like to mention, in print version and also in braille version, I have also listed the name in both Krama Sampurna and Asampurna system separately. Fine. And also the Katapayadi formula and its application, the Bhuta Sankhya, and also many information about Melakarta Ragas, and also how this Ragas are dealt.
Okay. No, what I want to ask you is, if you do it 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, Kanakangi, Ratnangi, doesn't it, isn't it more theoretical? Why don't you start with the known ragas? Thodi, Kalyani, Sankrabharnam. You start with the familiar ragas, then go to the unfamiliar ragas. Why not that way?
Yes, madam, that's a wonderful suggestion. But what I have done is, I have listed all 72 ragas in the teaching aid.
Yes.
Whoever wants to listen to a particular raga, he can directly play that particular raga and not go by 1, 2, 3 and scroll up to Shankarabharanam to reach that.
Even then, take for example Vagadiswari. You just play Harikamboji first.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, how do you differentiate Vagadiswari from Harikamboji? Leah?
Yes, madam. With the Rishabham that we sing for Harikamboji.
Sari, Gama, Pada, Daivadatla, Vidyasam varadu.
Yes, madam.
So that particular
Sari, Gama, Pada, Ni, Sa, Ni, Da, Pa, Ma, Ga, Re. That Rishabham we sing for Harikamboji, madam.
Yes.
That Rishabham. And whereas in Vagadishwari,
yes. So like that, from the known Harikamboji, you just sing Harikamboji first and then Vagadishwari. Likewise, for certain ragas, even some unfamiliar ragas without Vivadishwara Denuka.
Yes, madam.
Madhuri, you can.
Okay. Yes, madam. I would like to definitely share one thought about it. Dhenukala padra gandharathukkum todila padra gandharathukkum ajagajantaramana vyathyasam irukku.
அஜகஜாந்தரம் தான் அஜகஜாந்தரம்.
சரி கம பத நீ சா ர ந ததர ந ர ந ந ர ந ந. Even we call it the சாதாரண காந்தாரம், அது சாதாரணமே இல்லை.
ரொம்ப yes. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
madam.
Yes.
Need your blessings a lot to
God
continue
bless you,
my
God
musical
bless you.
journey.
You did so wonderfully.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Shri K.S.R. Aniruddha.
Namaskaram, sir. My name is Anirudh.
Namaskaram, sir.
This was an eye-opener for us. But this might look an impertinent question on Thala. I mean, you have clearly said it's just the Sapta talas, but for example, if I want a gati or nade change, there will be 3 lines of scripting, rather takka dimmi, like that. If it goes, it's okay. Takka dimmi, takka jannu. If I were to show it in a script, will it be a little challenging or confusing while reading the 2 or 3 layers of showing the representation, the meter of a thalam? When there is a, that's the complication of the South Indian thalam.
Of course, of course.
Have you thought of a way, or it's not necessary at this stage?
Definitely, I have thought of way, and if I get an opportunity in the future to make it more advanced, I can even think of Chaturashra Trishram, Chaturashra Kandam, ta ka di na, ta ka di na, ta ka di na, ta ka di na, ta ka di na. Any combination or anything as such, like Kanda Jati, Kanda Chapu, we count like this: ta ka ta ki ta, 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 ta ka ta ki ta. So we can count any advanced concept, or we can decode any even jazz rhythm. We can even decode Turkish rhythm.
Fantastic.
We can decode any genre across the globe with Carnatic classical music. I don't say just like that, but we can definitely do that. I don't say this music is great, this music is that. No, not exactly. Each music has its own significance, but we can, it depends on, like Annamacharya says in his composition, Enta matramunna evaru dalachina anta matrame neevu. Like how we, the more we understand about music, and the music appears like that to us.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much.
I now pass on the mic to Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Dr. S. Soumya, for her summing up.
எல்லாருக்கும் நமஸ்காரம். Very happy and honored to be back. Dr. Udaya Kiran, it was a very, very enlightening LecDem. நிறைய விஷயங்கள் டாக்டர் ரிதாஜன் சொன்ன மாதிரி நிறைய கற்றுக்க முடிஞ்சது, நிறைய விஷயங்கள் புரிஞ்சிட்டோம். ஒரு 2-3 நீங்கள் ஆல்ரெடி பண்ணியிருக்க வாய்ப்பு இருக்குது. You might have already thought about it, I'm sure, but just wanted to understand, have you done notations per se, in the sense for a full composition or something in tactile, using tactile graphics, or perhaps the Braille notation system?
I have it in my mind, madam, definitely.
Okay.
For this particular teaching aid, as we include only the Arohanam, Avarohanam, this is like a gateway.
Okay.
Through which we can definitely understand the composition and how the Swara permutation combination and also the Jati permutation combination. I have definitely an idea in my mind, a clear idea in my mind. When I get an opportunity to do that, like how we can convert a musical notation into Braille.
Mm-hmm.
And I have consulted few resources already. Like I have gone through a book called Who is Afraid of Braille Music in Western Classical Music by Richard Tesh, during my visit to Royal National Institute for Blind in London. And also, I have consulted a couple of other Braille resources during my visit to a couple of other organizations in United States as well. So I have it in my mind, but when I get an opportunity, definitely I'll make it a reality. I'll make it a point to make it a reality so that this documentation of music can also help people with special needs as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think at that point, what Sri Aniruddha said could also be incorporated, perhaps.
Definitely, madam.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you were mentioning the script, and you said it can be adapted in different languages, vernacular
yes,
languages
madam.
as well.
Yes, madam.
So my thing would be, are we talking of transliteration here? Everything in the alphabets you've mentioned are all more to do with the Roman script per se, script, not the language. So are we talking of transliteration, or is there anything specific for each of the Indian languages?
I'll try to make it very clear, madam.
Yeah.
When we write an alphabet in English, it can be read by people who can understand English.
Okay.
And it doesn't make any sense to people who can understand only other languages other than English. It doesn't convey any meaning.
Right.
But in Braille, if we place a dot, it can be interpreted in different languages in different way.
Oh.
For example, I can read French Braille even if I don't understand French.
Okay.
Phonetically, the dots are represented in a particular permutation combination. There are a couple of permutation combination of dots arranged in rows and columns, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as we saw in the image. So multiple cells of Braille dots, like 6 dots of each cell is called a Braille character.
Okay.
And further permutation combination of those Braille cells form a letter. And it has everything in it, like the basic alphabet, vowels, consonants, and also punctuations, computer notations, everything. And also music notation in terms of Western classical music. There are a couple of softwares made accessible to visually challenged. And there are a couple of visually challenged programmers as well, both in terms of software programming and also in terms of music programming. So digital audio workstations are also made accessible to visually challenged.
Okay.
Keeping that in mind, of course, there are possibilities of making the Braille notation accessible in Kannada classical music as well.
இல்லை தமிழ் கன்னடா தெலுங்கு அந்த மாதிரி லாங்குவேஜஸ்லேயே
Yes, madam.
அந்த ஸ்கிரிப்டில் இருக்குது இல்லையா?
Yes, madam.
ஓகே, தேங்க்யூ.
Yes,
அண்ட் ஒன் லாஸ்ட் திங் இஸ், உங்களோட எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ், அதாவது நீங்கள் நீங்களே சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த காலத்துலலாம் முன்னாடி ஆடியோவாக சொல்லி கொடுத்து இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணி, அஃப்கோர்ஸ் யூ ஹேவ் என்ன சொல்கிறது, தாட் த்ரூ ஈச் அண்ட் எவ்ரி டீட்டெயில். ஐ மீன் வி வேர் ஆக்சுவலி வண்டரிங் அபவுட் தட், இன்க்ளூடிங் அந்த டச் சென்சிட்டிவிட்டி அண்ட் ஆல் தட். வண்டர்ஃபுல் ஆக்சுவலாக. பட் அந்த மாதிரி சொல்லி கொடுத்துன்னு வந்ததுக்கும் இப்போ நீங்கள் ஆஸ் அ டீச்சர், யூ ஆர் அ ப்ரொஃபஸர் இன் இன் இன்ஸ்டிடியூஷன், ஸோ இதுக்கும் ஹாவ் யூ ஃபவுண்ட் எனி டிஃப்ரென்ஸ்? இந்த மாதிரி வெறும் வாய்ப்பாட்டாக சொல்லிக் கொடுத்து ஓரல் ட்ரெடிஷனாக சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கறதுக்கும் இந்த மாதிரி டீச்சிங் எய்ட்ஸோடு சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கறதுக்கும் ஏதான டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் ஹாவ் யூ எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ட்?
அப்படின்னு சொன்னப்போனால் ஒரு விஷயம் கிளியராக என்ன நம்ம புரிஞ்சுக்கலாம்னா மேடம், இப்போ அந்த காலத்தில் சொல்லிக் கொடுக்குறதுக்கும் இந்த காலத்தில் சொல்லிக் கொடுக்குறதுக்கும் என்ன டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் இருக்குன்னா, அந்த காலத்தில் ஒரு விஷயத்தை சொல்லி அந்த சிஷ்யா யார் அதை கற்றுக்குறாங்களோ அவங்கள தேட சொல்லுவாங்க. இந்த காலத்தில் டேட்டா பேஸே கொண்டு முன்னாடி வச்சு அதுக்கப்புறம் தேடுப்பான்னு சொல்ல வேண்டியதாக வரும். அதுதான் டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் மேடம். ஸோ தட்ஸ் வை தட் டீச்சிங் எய்ட் கம்பரைசஸ் ஆஃப் மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் தி இன்ஃபர்மேஷன், அண்ட் I hope it caters to the need of present generation as well.
So it is Guru Seva, that is Guru doing the Seva.
Sangeeta Seva, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was actually in the madri thought process, in the mari work is definitely the order of the day. We are going global, inclusive nu solradhoda ellarkume இந்த மாதிரி விஷயங்கள் they're very very important, and somebody like him who is so adept at not only analyzing and திங்கிங் நியூவாக அந்த மாதிரி ப்ராசஸ் திங்க் பண்ண மாத்திரம் இல்லாமல் அமக்கலமாக நீங்கள் பாடி காமிச்சில அந்த காந்தாரம், அந்த டிஃப்ரென்ஸ்லாம், இட் வாஸ் ஸோ பியூட்டிஃபுல். wonderfully sung and explained. So it was very, very nice. நிறைய ஒர்க் பண்ணுங்க. We're looking forward to experiencing more of your works. Best
Thank you
wishes.
so much, madam. With all your blessings, உங்கள் எல்லாம் பெரியவங்களை எல்லாம் உங்கள் மாதிரி எல்லாருடைய ஆசீர்வாதமும் அண்ட் கடவுள் அனுகிரகமும் இருந்ததுன்னா நிச்சயமாக இதுக்கும் மேலே நிறைய விஷயத்தை எல்லா லாங்குவேஜஸ்லேயும் பண்ணோம் அப்படின்னு மனசு இருக்குது. ஸோ ஐ எம் கான்வர்சன்ட் இன் கன்னடா, ஹிந்தி, தமிழ், தெலுங்கு apart from English. So I can take up any such work if assigned. I'm more than happy to do that. And also exposed to Western classical and Hindustani classical music as well, jazz and collaborations allam pannirukken with other musicians from other country as well. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
This morning's prayer, Brihaspati, I thought had to do with the second lecture demonstration of the day, which is on Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini. I realized it's Thursday. We have had a guru here, Shri Professor K.T. Udaya Kiran, who has come. We have had another guru, Dr. S. Saumya, who's now Vice Chancellor of the Music University, who is presiding. So I think everything has kind of worked so beautifully together. Thank you, Professor Udaya Kiran. Thank you,
Thank you,
Srimati
sir.
Madhuri.
Thank you so much.
We'll be drawing the curtains briefly to prepare the stage for the second lecture demonstration by Sangeeta Kala Acharya, Dr. R.S. Jayalakshmi.